Tonight's big stories. President Marcos tells soldiers for the second time in a week to be prepared to defend the country against external threats that have become more pronounced.
After the raids in Pampanga, another bill banning POGOs in the country has been filed in the lower house. And we'll be talking to ACT or ACT Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro about this.
Gunshots echoed through the densely wooded area of Fort Magsaysay in Palayan, Nueva Ecija as Philippine and U.S. Army forces exchanged fire for the selective exercise. In this video, the flashes from the soldiers' rifles are clearly visible. As the Allied forces swept through the area, several soldiers were positioned and launched attacks.
This is far different from yung nakikita natin sa Balikatan. Ito talaga yung forces gumagalaw na magkasabay at merong common target. Para itong all-star basketball na pinaghalo-halo mo yung team at pinagsama mo sila. O sige, maglaro tayo.
The highlight of the exercise was the Joint Pacific Multinational Readiness Center or JPMRC, used by the United States and the Philippines for the first time. Unlike in ordinary military drills, the JPMRC utilizes modern technological systems to make it more realistic. Among the tools utilized is the blank firing attachment or the yellow devices inserted into the muzzle of the rifle. This allows the gun to fire realistically but does not release any bullets. There is also a multiple integrated laser engagement system to determine where a soldier would be hit by a supposed bullet.
Naramdaman ng sundalo natin na hindi talaga biro. Ibahin ang pag-iisip kasi yung warfare sa territorial defense hindi katulad ng paggera sa internal security.
The U.S. Army says the use of the JPMRC is also significant for them due to the unique terrain in the Philippines, many of which they claim are unfamiliar to them.
The training has been absolutely world-class. The ability to work alongside your division staff and soldiers has made us all better warfighters. It's increased our lethality. It's developed cohesive teams between our two armies.
The Phase 2 of the selective exercise formally concluded, involving around 3,000 Filipino and American soldiers. However, the JPMRC technology will not remain in the country since it is mobile and based in Hawaii. But it is reportedly being discussed how it can still be utilized in larger military drills. For News 5, Brian Castillo, we are One News.
On another topic, there is a new House bill that seeks to put an end to POGOs here in the country, following the series of raids in Pampanga. Rainiel Pawit with the report.
Calls to ban POGO are also being echoed in the lower house. That's after the back-to-back search operations revealing possible heinous crimes committed within the expansive walls of several POGO compounds. House Minority Deputy Leader and ACT Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro led the filing of House Bill 10525 which prohibits and criminalizes POGO operations in the Philippines. It also seeks to revoke the licenses already granted to existing POGOs. The bill imposes penalties of up to 10 years in prison and 10 million pesos in fines.
Hindi lang naman gaming operations ang nangyari dito, no? Nagkakaroon na rin dito ng like yung mga kidnapping, nagkaroon na rin ng mga torture, nagkaroon na rin ng ano pa ba, yung mga iba pa at iba pang mga krimen.
Castro also appealed for support from President Marcos in putting an end to POGOs.
Dapat ay magsalita na rin si President Marcos Jr. kasi siya lang naman yung pwedeng magsabi, no? At kung sasabihin niya na ibaban talaga yung mga POGO.
2 other measures seeking to ban POGOs have been filed in the lower house. These measures have been approved by the Committee on Games and Amusement and are waiting to be submitted for plenary debates. But for Ways and Means Committee Chairman Joey Salceda, a blanket ban on POGOs is not the answer. He said the government should instead work on, quote, phasing out the bad and mediocre licenses given to the firms. He adds, don't phase out the whole industry, you enforce the law. PAGCOR has also appealed to the public not to demonize legitimate offshore gaming operators, citing their contribution to national revenue and employment. Data from PAGCOR shows licensed POGOs were able to contribute over 5 billion pesos to the agency's gross revenues last year. That's up from the nearly 3 billion collected in 2022, wherein there were more licensed firms. This year, PAGCOR said a total of 40 internet gaming licenses have been granted. As for regulating and going after those unlicensed, the Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission said they're at a disadvantage. The raid in Porac, Pampanga alone proves to be a challenge, with them having just a few dozen personnel searching the 10-hectare 46-building compound.
Sa laki po ng buildings, mga 4 na palapag po kada isang building. Tapos, depende po dun sa sa dadat na namin. Kung halimbawa, yung isang kwarto ay napakarami pong ebidensya, natatagalan po doon. Uli, ang naiwan pa po dyan is mga 300 plus na mga illegal POGO hubs. They are operating all without license po.
Authorities have yet to finish half of the entire compound, but have already found evidence pointing to criminal activities, which could help lawmakers decide on whether to pursue kicking POGO out for good. For News 5, Rainiel Pawid, we are One News.
Joining us tonight to talk about the plan to ban POGOs outright, we have with us on the line ACT Teachers Party List Representative Congresswoman France Castro. Congresswoman Castro, good evening. Thanks for making time out for us.
Good evening. Greetings also to your viewers and listeners.
Let me try that again. You're coming across a little bit choppy. Congressman Castro, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. Let's start with the HB 10525, the House Bill 10525, which you've just filed, seeking to revoke all licenses for online gaming, offshore gaming operations in the Philippines. Can you tell us more about it? What exactly are you looking to ban? Is it all gaming operations in the Philippines or just offshore gaming operations?
Yes, so our bill is on banning POGO, all offshore gaming operators and the like. So, yes, so it is the POGO and also criminalizing their operations. So that is House Bill number 10525.
And how is this different, Congresswoman Castro, from House Bill 5082 and House Bill 1197, which have been already filed in Congress by your colleagues? May pagkakaiba po ba ito? Can you talk us through any differences, if so?
Well, hindi ko masyadong nakita yung previous 2 bills banning also the POGO, but the essence is the same. I think doon sa dalawa, wala yata siyang mga penalty provisions. So meron tayong penalty provisions doon sa mga corporations or company operating POGO, and to those officials of the government or employees that will support the operations of POGO.
Congresswoman Castro, blanket ban po ba ang solusyon dito? Or is it possible to take a look at the processes of which these businesses are supervised? Because we do agree, for example, that they can be breeding areas for crimes to happen, given na hindi po natin alam yung nangyayari sa loob ng mga compound, malalaking building, malalaking ano. Meron po bang paraan na I mean, we can change the processes instead of a blanket ban?
Well, sa loob ng ilang taon ba yan? So from 2018 up to this year, no? Wala talagang nagawa yung ating iba't ibang mga agency to para talaga mapigilan itong mga unlicensed, no? Imagine that only 48 licensed and hundreds are unlicensed. So, paano nagkaroon ng ganito karaming unlicensed? Kung ito ay kung ito ay minomonitor ng mga concerned agencies. Kaya nag-aanak ito ng mga iba't ibang mga social problems, menace, iba't ibang kriminalidad, it could be money laundering, kidnapping, torture, and others. Tapos are we getting so much tax? Ito, sabi nila, merong 5 billion na tax. So is this commensurate doon sa nagiging problema natin nationwide about this POGO? So parang tingin natin hindi siya commensurate, no? And another thing, tungkol doon sa baka maging problema rin natin yung national security. Because in the recent news, there are uniforms of PLA. Well, that has to be investigated also.
Okay, Congresswoman Castro, pasadahan lang natin yung mga numero, no? I think earlier this year, nagkaroon na nga ng hearing dyan sa Kongreso. Ang panauhin doon ay si Al Tenco, who is the head of PAGCOR. Ang sinabi nga niya, 5.2 billion pesos daw ang narimit na taxes ng mga legit na POGOs last year, no 2023. Right now, they employ around 25,000 Filipinos and they lease around 625,000 square meters of office space. In your opinion po, no, hindi po ba parang weighty din yung mawawala sa atin once we kick out POGOs? Because my understanding is, of course, if you pass a law and if this bill becomes a law, matatanggal po yung POGO. Pero ang problema natin is yung mga illegal na POGO. At this point, is it too late to say na parang may magagawa pa tayo doon sa mga illegal, na kahit tanggalin natin yung mga legal, baka kumalat pa rin yung mga patagong mga POGO operations?
Well, that's why nga nakalagay dito sa ating bill yung penalty at yung mga iba't ibang mga agencies to monitor, to go after itong mga legal or illegal. Whether it is legal or illegal, nagkakaroon din ito ng nagbe-breed din ito ng iba't ibang mga problema. Well, yung 5 billion na yan na revenues that we got from the POGO, we can get it from other sources, di ba? For example, bawasan lang halimbawa yung corruption, tapos yung pwede rin namang ibang mga sources na pagkukuhanan. Kaya tingin natin hindi talaga nagko-commensurate itong nakukuha nating taxes and other benefit kung merong employment yan sa ating mga Filipino, hindi naman yan kalidad, hindi naman yan regular na trabaho. So dapat yung gobyerno natin mag-isip talaga na mabigyan talaga ng regular na trabaho itong mga Filipino at hindi ito napupunta sa mga illegal na mga gawain. Kasi talagang, I can't imagine, 48 lang yung license, but more than 100 ang mga, ang mga unlicensed and illegal POGO. So, paano nangyayari ito?
Hindi po ba crackdown ng kailangan? Sa ngayon, na hindi pa po napapasa into law, this bill that you filed, aren't we supposed to encourage crackdowns? I mean, for the short and medium term?
Well, dapat din gawin yan. Pero kasi ayaw natin na mag-encourage na ng offshore gaming kasi pinagbabawal nga yan sa ibang bansa eh. And yet tayo, pinapayagan natin yung mga sugalan. Okay? Kaya talagang ano na lang tingin sa atin ng ibang mga bansa. So, pinapayagan natin yung bawal sa kanila, di ba? Sa China and other countries in the world, bawal yan. Tapos tayo ang pinupuntahan noong mga nag-ooperate na mga POGO. Dahil sa pinapayagan natin.
Kong Franz, di kaya, kasi in the recent weeks, no, nakakausap namin ng mga kapulisan, base sa sinasabi nila, ang talagang regulator kasi is PAGCOR. Hindi kaya na dapat i-explore na lang natin na hindi sa PAGCOR bumabagsak no, ang pag-regulate dahil wala silang law enforcement arm, sila pa yung kailangan tumawag sa police. Di kaya sa basic structure ng pagka-regulate or pagka-setup ng industry with the regulator, doon tayo nagpumapalya.
Yes, pwede rin niya ilagyan, regulator sila pero wala nga silang enforcement. Kaya pwede nating dagdagan yan ng, ng kanila. Hindi lang naman niya sa POGO, no, iba't ibang mga games din, sa ating bansa na napayagan na natin dito sa ating bansa. Pero talagang itong POGO ay, talagang ang tingin talaga natin dito ay more bad than good ang ginagawa dito sa ating bansa.
It's not that we're lobbying for POGOs, Congresswoman Castro. I just wanted to make that clear. But we are talking about something that affects the economy. And as we know, the basic premise is everything is connected in the economy, right? So the economists in the lower house, for instance, Congressman Joey Salceda is against the blanket ban because it will affect other sectors. So forget about the $5 billion in revenue, in tax revenue. What about all the empty space that will be created once you clear out the POGOs? What about the potential property collapse, right? So those are the questions that our blanket ban is raising. And so my question is, what kind of measures do we have in place to make sure that it doesn't hit the economy so hard if a blanket ban is instituted? Are we looking that far ahead?
Well, tignan natin yung 5 billion at saka yung kino-contribute niyan sa economy. Kaya nga, we have to hear this bill. We have to hear other bills then again para makita natin yung recent development kung paano ba maapektuhan. And we can find solution to fill the gap kung mawawala itong mga POGO na ito. Kasi ang dami kasing kriminalidad na nangyayari. And yet, yung ating enforcement agency ay hindi rin ganun kahusay doon sa pag-monitor. Lalong-lalo na yung mga unlicensed POGOs. Kaya baka pwedeng mag-isip ang ating gobyerno ng pampalit. Alam ba, itong mga mababakanting mga lugar na ito, di ba dapat i-convert ito doon sa mga social services na natin, itutulong natin sa ating mga mamamayan. So yung ganun lang naman, tsaka iba na lang yung sources kaysa itong ganitong sugalan, international na offshore gaming na talagang nakakapangit din ang image ng ating bansa.
While I agree with you on some of your points, Congresswoman Castro, let's take a step back into history. Kung tama po yung naaalala ko, ang desisyon po ng dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte ay illegalize nga yung mga POGO at bigyan ng license para makolektahan sila ng buwis. Dahil yung nagyayari before, parang they're already there, but no one is benefiting, not the government, not
so
Filipino workers.
They raised the taxes of the POGOs.
Right,
yes, correct.
And so they were able to collect. Does that not have any impact on decision-making nowadays? Of course, in recent years, naririnig na lang natin yung mga raid at kung ano yung mga nadidiscover sa mga raid, mga human trafficking, mga scams and frauds. But to begin with, we already had that problem before. So how can we really, look to parang kumbaga close the hole on that problem na dati pa, nung hindi pa legal yung mga POGO at wala silang lisensya, they're already here?
Well, sinasabi nga ng dating Pangulong Duterte, so pinayagan allowing the gambling dahil nga wala tayong money. Diba? Kung talagang nandiyan na yung POGO before we legalize it, So dapat nga, anong ginagawa ng gobyerno? Pinayagan kasi ito ng gobyerno nung panahon ni President Duterte. Sana hindi na. So that yung mga nangyayari ngayon na nagiging sobra na yung mga nangyayari ngayon, pati mga local officials, quote-unquote, mga involved na pinag-aanuhan, naiimbestigahan. Kaya para talagang matigil ito, ay wag na lang at i-convert na lang ito sa iba pang mga pwedeng pagkitaan ng ating gobyerno. Hindi yung sugal.
What do your colleagues
Ganito
feel?
na naman natin na monitor, no? Dahil ito ay international, offshore, hindi natin na monitor kung tama nga ba yung binabayad na buwis or napupunta lang ito doon sa mga ilang corrupt na mga local officials.
How much support do you think, Congresswoman Castro, you have in the lower house for this bill, House Bill 10525?
Well, I heard the Marcos administration hindi naman sila papayag na tanggalin. Well, okay lang naman kami, sige lang naman. Well, makikita naman yung mga yung mga bills namin, yung mga binubungan ng mga bills namin later. Ito katulad yan, mga sinutulan namin itong POGO na to noong 2021 pa, pero nilegalize din. Tapos nagkaroon maraming problema. Kaya, I think siguro the leaders
Administration is not POGOs completely? Yun yung narinig niyo po?
Yes. Oo, parang may gano'n akong may narinig ako na parang hindi or he is silent, no? He is silent on banning the POGO completely. So wala pa tayong naririnig na wala pa tayong naririnig na comment ng presidente about banning the POGO.
Yung House leadership naman, Kong, how do they feel? Ano po yung sentimento dyan sa Kamara? Kasi meron na rin, I think, medyo similar na bill in Senate, courtesy of Senator Win Gatchalian. Sa Congress leadership, how do they feel about POGOs?
Well, itong pagbaba ng POGO, naririnig ko naman sa ibang mga congressman natin, this banning of POGOs gaining support. Okay, even Chairman Balbert, na dati gusto niya talaga magkaroon ng taxing the POGO. Pero ngayon parang he's changing minds yata sa huling interview sa kanya on radio.
Okay. All right, we will have to leave that there for now. Thank you so much for your time tonight, ACT Teachers Party List Congresswoman Franz Castro.
We're going to pause for a quick break. Right after that, the legal team of the fugitive Apollo Quiboloy is looking to file a case of their own against police who stormed the Kingdom of Jesus Christ compound. The details when the big story returns. Keep it here.
At Article 269 of the Revised Penal Code, unlawful arrests, because in Glory Mountain there were 9 members who were unlawfully arrested, and all the requisites of an unlawful arrest under Article 269 is present. There is also a probable violation of Article 132, which is interruption of religious worship. Obstruction of the fence can also constitute as malicious mischief, especially in the light of the fact that the entry was done without prior request to enter, no? And they know already that the administrator of all the properties of the kingdom is the former President Rodrigo Duterte. And President Rodrigo Duterte has consent has not been secured.
Attorney Torreon also insisted that Quiboloy is not in hiding and that he merely made himself unavailable.
Is the pastor in hiding?
Legally, I don't think he is in hiding because he is availing of the options that are available to him under the law. I think he already intimated his reason. He has genuine grounds to believe that he might be a victim of extraordinary rendition to be conducted by the United States of America. He is making himself unavailable. He cannot just be found, and that is one of his options under the law, because note that the legal term fugitive from justice in the famous Rodriguez case states that a person can be considered as a fugitive from justice if there is already a conviction against him, and to all those persons who, after being charged, flee to avoid prosecution. In this case, there is still a legal question as to the phrase "after being charged," simply because of the fact that we are questioning the indictment on the ground that there was really no probable cause against him. But the more meaty part is that there is violation of his right to speedy disposition of cases. If you are a lawyer and you are asked an opinion by your client, I believe that you have to provide him options, because that is not your choice. You have to provide him perhaps 3 options, and you let him decide. One of the options is to surrender.
From one fugitive to another, former Negros Oriental 3rd District Representative Arnie Teves has been re-arrested after earlier being released in Timor-Leste. Teves was handcuffed and closely guarded by Timor-Leste National Police as he was taken to court earlier today. This was for the extradition hearing in connection with the Philippines' request to bring him back to face charges related to the killing of former Negros Oriental Governor Roel Digamo and 9 others. His lawyer, Ferdinand Topacio, insisted that wasn't a rearrest and that the government's extradition case is weak.
Nagkataon lamang po today is the start of the extradition hearing. The court may ask that the extraditee be placed in the custody of the court to ensure that he will be attending the proceedings. Wala pong rehas dito. It's just a room where he is kept under guard by the National Police. This is not a prison.
In other news, paying President Marcos a visit in Malacanang today was New Zealand Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs Winston Peters. The 2 leaders discussed geopolitical issues and maritime defense cooperation, including the details of a planned visiting forces agreement. The Philippines and New Zealand are looking to boost ties to a comprehensive partnership by 2026 and increase two-way trade by 50% by the year 2030. Peters' courtesy call comes on the heels of New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon's visit back in April.
Another quick break for now, but right after that, Elon Musk is threatening to ban Apple products from all his companies after Apple announced that it was integrating ChatGPT into its devices. The details when the big story returns. Keep it here. Welcome back. This is still the big story here on One News.
Elon Musk is threatening to ban all Apple products from his companies after Apple announced it was integrating ChatGPT into its devices. At its annual Worldwide Developers Conference, Apple released a slew of artificial intelligence features across its apps and platforms in partnership with OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT. The new basket of features will be called Apple Intelligence and added to a new version of iOS 18.
You'll be able to access ChatGPT for free without creating an account. Your requests and information will not be logged. And for ChatGPT subscribers, you'll be able to connect your account and access paid features right within our experiences. Of course, you're in control over when ChatGPT is used and will be asked before any of your information is shared.
For months, Apple had been under pressure to come up with its AI strategy after Microsoft and Google rolled out their own AI products in succession. At the conference in California, Apple insisted it had built in AI with privacy, quote, at the core.
You should not have to hand over all the details of your life to be warehoused and analyzed in someone's AI cloud. With Apple Intelligence, powerful intelligence goes hand in hand with powerful privacy. We have integrated it deep into your iPhone, iPad, and Mac, and throughout your apps, so it's aware of your personal data without collecting your personal data.
But one person who's clearly unconvinced is Elon Musk, the billionaire founder of SpaceX and Tesla. Musk posted on X shortly after the Apple keynote saying, if Apple integrates OpenAI at the OS level, then Apple devices will be banned at my companies. That is an unacceptable security violation. He goes on to say it's patently absurd that Apple isn't smart enough to make their own AI, yet is somehow capable of ensuring that OpenAI will protect your security and privacy.
He does have a point, though.
He raises very good questions. How do you...
I'm kind of scared about it because remember we had Microsoft here and he was saying that this is a closed platform. Whatever you ask on the platform, whatever you put on the platform will be protected. But ChatGPT
is an open source platform. That's right.
Like, for example, what if somebody asks about private details about your life? The question is, what if you accidentally give permission to Apple to access your information?
Let's not be too hasty. Let's see how the rollout's gonna go. I mean, I'm definitely not gonna update right away. Let's see what Reddit has to say about all this first.
It's very curious. The Apple executive was saying it can acknowledge your data without taking your data.
I wonder
how does that work?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? How does it acknowledge? How does the AI system acknowledge your data without collecting that information?
It's good we have a powerful, influential person questioning this, taking the lead on that. And speaking of powerful and influential, one person is also using technology to push the envelope is John Aguilar, who produced a documentary series called Methods to Greatness, which takes him to as far as Finland as he interviews experts in life sciences and sports training. To talk more about this, we have him on the show tonight, host, entrepreneur, and author John. Welcome to Signal, to One News.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Methods to Greatness. We know you, of course, from the final pitch.
Right.
But this is a new series coming off a book. What inspired you to come up with this idea?
Yeah, the Methods of Greatness concept really started from the pandemic. It was a podcast when all of us were stuck in our homes. And that time, the world's biggest publishing company, Penguin Random House, reached out to me and said, would you like to pitch a concept for a book to us? And so I said, I have this podcast. I'd like to pitch it for it to be a book. And when we released the book last year, we also released the docuseries Methods to Greatness, which is the offshoot. It's the evolution of the Methods to Greatness concept of me interviewing, learning from all of these great people.
Is it the same? Like whatever you have in the book, may video version ka, or is
no,
it totally
it's totally different. Yeah, it's totally different. That was more like a one-on-one interview. This is more experiential. It's like me going out and meeting all of these
So it's kind of
people.
like show and tell. You try the methods.
Right.
How do you feel? Do you feel that much greater after that?
It's hard because I had to do a lot of things in the series. For example, you mentioned Finland. That was the first episode. I actually went on a cold dip in 0 degrees water, just in the middle of the Baltic
to
Sea.
lengthen your life?
Hope so. I hope so. But
something to do with your central nervous system and the dopamine and controlling stress, right? And the fight or flight. How did that work out for you?
It was difficult at first, but because I had the guidance of an expert. He was a breathing and cold exposure expert, Lee, who is actually an Australian, who's based there in Helsinki. So because I had an expert guiding me, the first time I did it for another episode in the series in Switzerland, was the first time I did it. I only lasted 30 seconds back then, but because I had an expert guiding me through the process, I lasted more than 3 minutes.
Doon sa lamig.
Yes.
Malamig na ano.
Yes.
I have done it. I also lasted 4 minutes until I
Wait.
voluntarily.
We're looking at your
looking
videos
at
right
the
now.
video.
Wait, sorry, hold on.
It is a cold.
What's
Okay,
Methods
let's
to
focus on
Greatness?
how
The
does a cold
greatness,
plunge.
the greatness here pertains to extending your lifespan.
It is focused
Or
a lot.
it's physical?
Right.
Or wellness?
It's focused all of the above.
Okay.
Greatness can be defined and can be explored in a variety of ways. In particular, for the first season, I really focused on wellness, health and wellness, and longevity. That's why I was able to learn from all of these experts, not just in Finland and Switzerland, but also here locally. I was able to work with a couple of biohacking experts,
Saan
doctors.
dito sa Pilipinas?
Iba-iba.
Meron dyang biohacking sa tapat.
Yes,
Nito nga TV
you don't have
Fancy.
to look far because we actually worked with MaxiCare. And I really began just finding out what my baselines were, the basics, like cholesterol level, doing the blood work. And from there, accessing different resources that I could find to be able to help me improve on my health. So it was really about getting the data first. And they were very helpful.
So you said it's physical and also what? Mental?
And mental as well.
Psychological, spiritual?
All of the above,
Okay.
because it really is a holistic approach that we took for the series.
So I'm assuming, reading the bio and these questions that our producers have prepared, it looks like it's a lot of these new, kumbaga, I don't want to say the word fad, but some could be seen as a fad. It needs to be there for a while for it to be a trend, right? So which fads did you try out, and can you tell us, just so we can envision, ano ba talaga yung pinagdaanan mo? Let's start with the cold plunge. Let's start with what other activities you feel that you did that actually made an impact, a real impact in your life and your
Okay.
greatness.
All right. So I'm 46, and I'm a returning athlete. I was, like you, I represented Ateneo in a different sport, in track and field. And a lot of the things that I was doing as an athlete back then, I discovered that are still universal truths. Like, for example, the effects of creatine on a power athlete and supplementation in terms of protein. So that was something that I was doing way before that I discovered now there's more research backing it. But there are also a few things like, some things you might consider a fad. Like, for example, hyperbaric chambers, right? Which I think, depending on how you look at these things, they could be something that maybe is more like a placebo or not, because there is hard science backing these protocols. But I think at the end of the day, it's the experimentation and trying to see, okay, does this work? And in the long term, how do they affect my performance, my psychological well-being when I am preparing, competing?
Hindi ba mahal naman yung method to greatness? I mean, listening to you.
Great din
Okay.
yung
Sounds
price tag.
expensive.
Okay.
Where do I start?
Okay, so it can be expensive depending on how you look at it. Okay, because there are a lot of things that you can do on a daily basis to biohack your health. Like, for example, when you wake up, first thing maybe that you could do is hydrate, because we're all dehydrated, right, when we sleep. First thing maybe you could do is put a little bit of lemon and a little bit of salt in that glass of water that you drink first thing in the morning. Get some light exposure through the sun. So, a lot of these things that sometimes we take for granted, or we don't have or give ourselves access to because we're so busy, or we don't naturally do it on a daily basis. Just remembering and, doing these things that we should be doing, like getting out and, interacting also with other people. I learned so many things, but,
What's
it's
your
really a
favorite?
journey.
What's your
Yeah,
favorite?
your
hack?
favorite. I'm really curious.
Okay, the thing that really struck me, we were talking about Finland. Apart from the sauna and the cold exposure, it was really the experience that I had in this forest. It's called, it's in the middle of Nuxio Park. It's a national park. And there I met Mickey, who was a yogi, who really introduced me to the concept.
Forest bathing?
A little bit of that, forest bathing, but just in this brilliant, magical forest almost, like what you see in the movies. But what I felt there was a sense of gratitude that, here I was in the middle of nowhere. It was cold, I was in a foreign country, but I felt the warmth of the people there who welcomed me and showed me that, I told them, you have such a beautiful home here. And, it's not ideal sometimes where we are, like, like here in Manila, you would see pollution. But, she told me, you don't have to be jealous of what we have, because wherever you are, you can find that belonging, that sense of gratitude, regardless whether you have pollution or not. it's really being content with life and
That
your
sounds a lot
current
like
circumstance.
perspective, though.
It is. It
It
is.
is. And
But out of the procedures that you've tried,
Procedures. Almost like
it sounds like plastic surgery.
the protocols. The protocols. Yes.
What would you call
yes.
them?
The
Modality.
the modalities, the protocol.
Treatment.
Buzzword treatment.
Out of all of that you've tried and you've experimented a lot, which one would you keep doing? That's I guess that's the most telling. Isn't
Okay,
it? Like,
not
which
not
would you?
right. Nothing to do with machines. Right? It's more the natural things that you can do on a daily basis, like what I just mentioned.
The water.
The water, all these things. But apart from that, the things that I learned from people, I competed in the Asian Masters Championships last year, and that exposure allowed me to be able to interview and learn from 70, 80-year-old athletes who are competing.
Was that an athletics event?
Yes, yes. The Asian Masters Championships was hosted here in the Philippines. So I was privileged to be able to carry the country's flag in that competition. But I learned so much from, these almost centennial. There was a 90-plus-year-old lady who, although she was kind of walking, doing the 100-meter dash, I got to interview her prior to her race, and just the support that her family showed her, being there for her, just made me realize that things that are good for us sometimes do not come from machines. They really come from a support system, like a loving family. And so I think that, among other things, I really learned in terms of how we can live longer. It's not so much the things that we consume, vitamins, not that. It's really
So
having
less synthetic, more natural.
What should we not do?
Ooh.
Overthink. Sleep late, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a very
Stuff
good,
like that,
very good point. Sleep is very important. It's critically important to peak performance. A lot of us take it for granted. I think because of the culture now that sometimes we stay late for Netflix or whatnot. I think it's making the right decisions on a daily basis. Maybe lessening or totally eradicating, let's say, for example, alcohol from your system. It's not.
Hindi ba nakakahaba ng buhay yan?
Well,
What literature have you been reading?
Hindi pa wala na stress, di ba?
Hindi ko alam, di ako umiin.
You are on the 4th episode
Yes.
this weekend, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so
yes.
apart from Finland, what do we look forward to
Yeah, there's a Switzerland trip in store as well for the viewers.
this weekend?
That's going to be, I believe, on the 6th episode. There's also the competition that I joined with these
Asian
master
Masters.
athletes from around Asia. And this weekend is actually, the concept is show business, or the business of the show. So I take the viewers on the process of putting together methods to greatness in terms of creating an ecosystem and a community that eventually will allow us to be able to reach more people through the show.
Oh, John, since we're already talking about the show, can you tell us, we understand this is an 8-episode first season that's
Yes.
airing here on One News. When can people catch your show?
It airs every Saturday at 4:30 p.m. and every Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Here on One News. So, yeah.
And since the first 4 episodes have already aired, can you tell us a bit about the first, the episode 2, 3, and 4? We already know you went to
Yeah,
Finland for the first
right.
one. So just briefly, where did you go and what happens in episode 2, 3, and 4?
Yeah. Episodes 2 and 3 were all about second chances. I mentioned that I'm a returning athlete, so it was my second chance. But we also explored the second chances of people who, for example, had a really serious case of disease or cancer. So Bobby Makasait, who is the chairman of MaxiCare, I learned from him how he was able to transition to a plant-based diet because of his cancer. And apart from that, I also was able to learn from just going through the process of getting all of my baselines, learning from the doctors. And, even if I'm an athlete, I have very high cholesterol, right?
So but that's a lot of that is genetic, yeah?
Yes, exactly. And sometimes you can't control it.
Yeah.
So no matter what food you eat, sometimes you're just naturally predisposed to having high cholesterol. So it's the acceptance and also finding out what is the best next step for you to do to be able to take care of your health. So a lot of these questions I was able to grapple with, and hopefully, in the coming episodes or seasons, these questions that not only I have, but other people who will have through the series. Because just to take you to the future, the first season was about me trying all of these things, being a guinea pig of sorts. But for the next season, we want to be able to involve other people who will take their own methods to greatness journeys.
Wow.
Something
so
to look forward to.
exciting. I am so into all of these topics, by the way.
Thank you so much for joining us on The Big Story
Thank you so
tonight.
much.
Methods to Greatness host John Aguilar. While there's a lot of talk centered on geopolitical tensions in the West Philippine Sea, on another topic, here is another story that's also worth telling, and that is of Filipino fishermen caught in the dispute. Discover the lives of fishermen in Bajo de Masinloc as attorney Goyo Larazabal takes on a 4-day journey to Scarborough Shoal. For a sneak peek on that, let's watch this.
I've always wondered about Bajo de Masinloc. What's the life of the fishermen there? The stories they tell about how beautiful and how bountiful Bajo de Masinloc was. If you just stand, you put your hand below the water, you can easily pick up a fish. 2 days lang, puno na yung bangka nila. Now, 1 week, minsan kulang pa.
Catch that documentary on June 12, 6:15 p.m. That's tomorrow, right here on One News.
Yes, and walang pasok bukas in case
Oo nga,
kalimutan
holiday
ninyo.
nga pala.
Yes.
Independence Day.
Perfect time, no, to try to chase what John was telling us about peace. But tomorrow, walang excuses to chase that. But before we go, here is our big picture for tonight, also sports related. The Olympic colors are now in Paris. These Olympic rings, known as the Spectaculars, have been installed over at the Eiffel Tower. The 5 rings are installed at each Olympiad on one of the host city's iconic monuments. In 2012, the rings were seen at the Tower Bridge in London and at the Odaiba Marine Park for the Tokyo Games. French President Emmanuel Macron proudly shared this photo. So yung big picture natin tonight is taken by the French President.
Wow.
Who may not be president for very long, given the revolt in parliament.
Come on,
But
let's end on a good note.
I'm just saying. But anyway, thank you for the photo, President Macron.
While you are still president. Okay, so I guess Happy Independence Day. We will be here,
Happy
even
advance,
though
yes.
even though there won't be work for a majority of the people. But for tonight, Tuesday night, that's it from us 3 here at The Big Story.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.